Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for joining me as a guest on our Resilient Entrepreneur Show.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Kate.
So, Stephanie Dahl is an owner and partner at Dahl Fisher LLC, which is a law firm that specializes in estate planning and business law. Tell us a little bit more about your business.
Sure. So, we started the business 15 years ago, my law partner Kelly and I, and we really focus primarily on estate planning. So, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, all of those things, and probate are the kind of two. So, when somebody passes, administering their estate and passing it to their loved ones and helping to protect their legacy. And then supporting those kind of practices, we do some business law and real estate because we have a lot of clients who are entrepreneurs and they have their hands in a whole lot of different things.
I love that, and I relate to that as we were talking earlier. And we work with a lot of business owners who might have built a small, successful business over the last 20 or 30 years, and they're beginning to think about succession planning and wealth transfer. And do they pass it over to a kid? And like, what happens if they want to retire? Do they sell the business? And so I love that you can partner with an entrepreneur at really any stage of that journey. And then as an entrepreneur, our businesses are often our babies, even
They
though some
are.
have real babies. But you need a professional guidance of like, what happens next? How do I protect the legacy of the business that I've built for this long? I'm not there yet, where I'm only 5 years in as an entrepreneur, but I could see myself in 20 years having these planning conversations. And it's probably not too soon ever to plan, right? You were
No.
talking about real estate and putting that inside of an LLC so that you're also protected, especially if it's a rental property, right? And
Yep.
people are
Absolutely.
coming and going, and you don't want them to be able to find and contact you as that owner.
Yep. We want to silo off and, provide as much asset protection as we possibly can while still maintaining control and doing a whole bunch of different things. So absolutely, it's every one of our clients is unique and different, and so it's really about sitting down and talking to them and finding their goals and how we can help and what we can do, and working to achieve that, and working with their other professionals that they partner with, their financial planner, their CPA, you know business coach, whomever it is, but just working with them as a team to help support them in their goals.
Love that. Yeah, especially in that like family office kind of situation and practice as well. So, well, I know you've been a business owner for 15 years now. I'm only 5 years in, and there's been a lot that I think I've overcome. So we'll start with the easy one about successes. I think it's easy to always share about the achievements and the things that you've done well. So tell us a story. Share one of the proudest achievements as a business owner that you've had.
Let's see. I don't know. Probably as a business owner, I could probably tell you a lot more stories on things that I've messed up and tried to figure out along the way than all the achievements. But,
That's next. That's part two. Yeah.
um, I would say when we first started the firm, we started with a lot of litigation. We were heavily litigation based. What we do now is more transactional. And so a couple years in, we started having conversations around, do we really want to continue? Litigation is just a different animal. And so do we want to continue in that space or really kind of pivot all the way over to estate planning, transactional, and kind of that proactive area of law? And we had a lot of conversations around it, and we did. We pivoted from a full-on litigation firm to pure estate planning. This is probably 10 plus years ago. But it's a big pivot. It's basically like scrapping an old law firm and starting over because it's different systems, it's different clients, it's different marketing, it's different accounting. It's just all the things are different. And so I would say one of our biggest successes was, and maybe it was, being a little naive too. How hard could this be? But, just saying we're going to do it and flipping the switch and really kind of turning completely into a transactional law firm. And we love it. We love working with our clients. They're amazing. And so being able to do that, and while there's always some bumps in the road, pretty seamlessly being able to do that.
I think it's important to have that clarity and that focus so people know when to think of you and when to come to you and like what you do and what you do really well. And I struggle with this. We were talking a little bit about like I call it entrepreneurial ADHD. I don't think it's a proper diagnosis, but I'm always thinking about new ways of solving problems and new businesses that we could go into. But I think that's great because then, that clarity and that focus, it lets you deepen relationships, and also I probably like allows you to grow organically through referrals, because people are like, who do you go to for estate planning? And like, you're the person that
Yeah.
they think of.
Exactly. You hear it so often, but people say, make sure people know what you do. Entrepreneurs, we love to be like jack of all trades, but there's a second part of that, which is master of none. And I think so often we want to do everything and be everything for everybody. And really for us, narrowing it down and tailoring it to what we do has been amazing, because it makes you much more referable for clients, to say, oh no, this is what they do. Not, oh, I think they might do that, maybe, right? And then to
Yep.
be good at it, right? To know what questions I need to ask, what pitfalls are going to come up. So it's been helpful to be able to do that.
I love that. And I think it's hard because you're initially afraid probably of, I'm going to miss out on other business, people
Hmm.
like patents or trademarks or, organizational agreements or litigation. And like, there could be money I'm leaving on the table, but also like by being focused is like you become the deep expert, right? People want to go to you for your expertise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
When we all
Jack of
start,
all
we call it
trades.
threshold law. We'll take whatever comes over the threshold. Um, and, from an ethical standpoint, they really are, our Supreme Court really pushes, play in your sandbox, know your stuff, so that, because it's the best thing for the client, right? If you know your stuff and you help them with your stuff and they need help with additional legal matters that is not your area of expertise, it is more beneficial to the client to send them out than to keep them in. And that's really the whole goal for us, is we want to make sure that the client gets the right people at the right time, and they're well taken care of, whether that's with
Yeah.
us or not.
I agree. I think in my business connections, I talk about having the right referral partners. If I'm not the person to solve the problem for you, I know someone that is. I have a trusted network of referral partners. And so I'm not going to pretend that I could help you lead with your law advice or organizational structure, or I'm not a CPA to do your taxes. I know what I can do for you, and I know when it's right for me to send you to one of my trusted partners as a referral.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, you said there's more lessons learned, learning opportunities, and growth challenges along the way. And, we all know that being a business owner is very challenging. And I think most of the time people only share the highlight reel and don't share the struggle. And that's why I started this podcast about resilient entrepreneurship. Is I think everyone thinks it's easy and they can, I'll just turn on an LLC and go be a consultant. Everyone's doing it, right? But I'd love for you to share about a hard lesson or a journey, an opportunity that you had to learn on this growth journey.
Absolutely. Like I said, there's a lot. Obviously, I'm sure you've probably read it, the book, The E-Myth. And it really talks about how, I think the example, it's been maybe a decade since I've read it, but it talks about, you're the pie maker, you're the baker, so you're like, oh, how hard could this be? I can open my own bakery. Not recognizing, so to your point about, well, I can go be a consultant, just open an LLC and everything else. And so, the good news, I think, about entrepreneurs, and we're like, we could do that. How hard could it be? Which, that fearlessness gives us, a little bit of an edge to just take that leap and take that risk. On the flip side, sometimes we get ourselves into a place where we're like, oh, I should have thought that one through a little bit more, or done a little more research. But I would say, um, some of the things I've learned along the way, a couple of things. Number one, hire before you need them. A lot of times we have hired after the fact, after we needed someone and we needed them for a long time. And, when you're trying to do the ramp, like onboarding them and making sure they know what they're doing and everything else. And the reason you hired them is because you're really busy. And so, being able to make sure that you have the time and the space to properly onboard them so they have success in your company. So I think hiring has been a challenge, always. I think, I talk to other attorneys in our space and even other business owners, and it's a challenge for all of us, is the hiring piece of it. And then I think, you know, the old adage of knowing when to, slaughter the sacred cow, so to speak. And I think we get so used to doing things a certain way, and this is how we do them. And AI is a perfect example of, we always used to do things. And so having to figure out, well, how do I do that now? Adopting either this new technology or this system I had in place while it works is clunky and maybe not the most forward, or I guess easiest for my clients to work through, or whatever it is. So I'd say for us, it's been like kind of that technology system and process of realizing that we're always learning, always testing out new technology, new everything to kind of help have the most streamline and efficient process for our clients while balancing a very personal approach and all of those. And so, there's a handful of iterations we've gone through getting there, and we're still getting there. So, learning every day on that.
Yeah, I love that. And even in your space as a lawyer, like AI could be really scary because you were like, wait, if I put some private information in here, where is it being trained on? And like we hear about the lawyers that get in trouble because it um hallucinates and
Yep.
like made up law that didn't exist
Yep.
and stuff, right? But you're also thinking about being technology forward and the client experience, like how easy it is to engage with you. So, do you record meetings with your clients and have AI take notes if it is in a secure place, or file systems and folders? Or even how they pay for your time, right? Like now there's apps that can click onto your calendar and take a credit card payment securely using a Stripe payment, and like bill for your time using portals and stuff. And if you don't continue to evolve and adapt, a manual broken process might take time and waste money, but also could lose you a customer. I left my old CPA for a new CPA when he told me I had to mail him all of my forms for him to process. And I said, can I just upload them into a secure file and portal? And he didn't trust the file systems. And I was like, but you trust the United States Postal Service? And I'm supposed to send you all of this. So, it wasn't a fit. We weren't aligned because he hadn't pivoted from the way that he had always done
Mm-hmm. Yep.
done things. And my new CPA, like I have a secure login portal and I upload all my my files into those folders that she has access to, right?
Yep.
That was what I was looking for.
Yep. Well, and I think it's also balancing it against like there's so much technology out there and there's so many cool things it can do, but also, it needs to be very user friendly. And some of the stuff we've seen, for our client, one of the things that is really important to us for Kelly and I is that our clients, it is a personal experience the entire way through. We are sitting down and we are talking about your family, most importantly. We're talking about money. We're talking about dying. We're talking about being sick. Like, these are really hard and personal topics. And so those conversations, those things, that human connection in our belief should stay human, right? There are certain things we can automate that will make life easier for people, but there are other things that just, when you lose that human connection, there are things that when I'm sitting in a room with a client and they talk about it, I can see their body language and it causes me to ask more questions or do something else.
Yeah.
Which may lead us to something I need to know to, really put a good plan together for someone. And I think too often, if we try to get going too fast, too efficient, too automated, we can miss those little things. To no one's fault, but they just get missed because, that human element, that human connection still needs to be in some of our businesses. So,
I 100% agree. And you're dealing with people in a very vulnerable, like you said, emotional moment. So the empathetic listening and the active listening and the digging deeper and asking questions, and is most of your clients local so you can meet them in person, they come into your office, or do you do things virtual and digital, and has your client base kind of expanded? I know probably as a lawyer it has to be the state of Colorado, right? But has it expanded maybe beyond a local footprint that you'd meet people in person?
a little bit. So you're right. We do some meetings virtually. So our consultation, we do a complimentary consultation where we sit down and just learn about the clients for about an hour and talk through everything. And that we can do in Zoom or in person, whatever the client prefers. Because sometimes, right, it depends on what's going on. For example, my husband and I trying to get us somewhere together in the middle of the day and then factoring in drive time, it's just too much. It's a little easier for us to jump on Zoom.
Right.
We can do kind of our, when we talk through who people are appointing and the design of their plan and everything else, again, can be virtual or in person, whatever works. And then the signing, we still need wet signatures. So we have
Oh,
people come see us. So while our footprint expands a little bit, because a lot can be done virtually, we still need that. Now we can work with clients in FedEx documents for signature and stuff like that, but it's always a lot easier when they can come to us. So we have clients, down in Pagosa Springs and the Springs and up north, and they'll just say, well, I was coming into the city anyway, so we'll just make a day and come in and see you and do all the things. So
yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah, that's true. And you're right about the signatures because like I live in a digital world with DocuSign and but you probably want or at least a notary or something if they can take it somewhere locally and send it back to you.
Yeah,
So
witnesses and notaries. That way we make sure the person who is giving away their assets is actually that person.
yeah, very, very fascinating and just a different take on things. Yeah, and the whole privacy and security of the data and being sure that you can trust the technology, like I think it's still new, right? Like you don't have to be an early bleeding edge adopter of AI, just like, but like it's going to happen, just like the internet happened and digital
Yeah, it's coming.
phones have happened. So probably need to learn. But also, if your customer base is an older generation that is planning for retirement and legacy and succession, they may be very uncomfortable with Zoom meetings and might want the in person come to your office and sit with you conversation. So
Yeah, we kind of have all kinds. We have a lot of younger clients who are entrepreneurs who are building their businesses, building their families, and they're like, we want to get, a good foundation in place to build on. I always tell people estate planning is not a sprint. We try not to make it a sprint. It should be a marathon, meaning we get a good foundation in place and then you're consistently building on it as your life changes. So we have everybody who wants to be on Zoom or in person. We just try to accommodate what's best for the client and easiest for them. Because I know
yeah.
nobody really wants to talk to me about this stuff.
But it's important.
It
But it's
is.
important.
Yep.
So let's talk about the future then.
Sure.
It's a new year. You've been in business almost 15 years now. So, what is on the plan of how you plan to continue to grow your business for this new year?
Um, I think for us, they are little tweaks, right? There's nothing huge like, oh, we're switching completely to this or doing that. It's really about little tweaks so that we can do more for our clients. We can provide a better service, more white glove, all while maintaining our same standards, you know, for our clients. And so, really it's about conversations of, do we need to hire more people so that it's a better experience for people than it is? Do we need to adopt some new technology to help with kind of production? Are there more contacts we can make with clients? So all sorts of those kind of like little different tweaks, nothing huge. We are so fortunate, and so like I love our clients. We have amazing clients. They are so fun to talk to. I learn from my clients every day. They're all in different types of businesses and just really cool life stories and experiences. And so that piece of it we don't want to change. We just want to make sure that the experience they're having is wonderful. And are there other things we can be doing to kind of support them and make sure that, everything is protected in their life, not just, the typical things we think of: kids, house, cars, bank accounts. So,
Yeah. And it sounds like you're asking your customers like what else would you
mhm.
like to see? You're not trying to create a new service that doesn't necessarily solve for a pain or a problem that your customer base has, right? So it's, focusing on making sure that the customers that you have are happy and is there anything else that they would like to see from you is
Exactly.
a great way to grow.
Yep.
Um, and then you mentioned hiring, and it's not necessarily hiring another lawyer like you and your partner Kelly, right? It's about back office and the stuff that I talk about, like taking the worry away of the how to run the business. It's the accounting and the finance and the
Yeah.
technology and the operations and the support roles and stuff that free you and Kelly up for your billable time and your client facing time, that you are the expert, and the stuff that you can't delegate to someone that could help and assist you. So, and I think it's always a fear and a struggle for businesses, even though you've been in business for 15 years, to be like, I don't want to grow too big. I don't want to have too many employees. I don't want to hire too fast. I don't want to have the responsibility of payroll of all these other people who, if you genuinely care, like, have their own families and
Mhm.
financial responsibilities that
Yep.
you then take on, right? And so there's always, I think, that of growth is good, but like at the right pace that you're comfortable.
Yeah. We all kind of have our secret sauce, what makes what makes our company or our firm um, special to people. And so, there are some places where that piece is technology, right? It doesn't always have to be the human component, but I think that's what differentiates us. And so, to your point about hiring, it's about hiring the right people so that we don't lose that in the midst of growth and then look back and go, what happened? We want to maintain all of that as we grow.
Yeah, I love that. Well, how can I help? I always like to end with, like, what are you looking for and how can I help?
Um, you know, I keep doing what you're doing. I think it's great. I love that people are listening and learning and, learning that it's not always the easiest journey, but it's a journey that is well worth it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I've loved being an entrepreneur and, to your point about ADHD entrepreneurism, I'm like, what else could we do? Are there other things? So I love it. Obviously, if anybody needs estate planning, we are always here to help with that here in Colorado. But yeah, no, just keep doing what you're doing. I think it's great.
It's very exciting. I love supporting other business owners and entrepreneurs and hearing and sharing their journey and their story, and cross promoting and cross branding companies. Like, I'm not in Colorado, so I couldn't use you,
Yeah,
but I know people. Like, we all know
yeah,
people and speak to people in different states, and it's just good to hear what other people are doing, and how they've kind of figured out how to add value, create value in the place that they are. So
absolutely. Yeah.
thank you so much for being open and honest and joining me and sharing your story and being flexible with me and coming on my show. Now that you've been on the show, who do you recommend for me to interview next?
I would say I have a dear friend who has started a medical company, and they are. She and I were joking. This I was actually talking with her this weekend, which makes me think about her. But she's really like your medical wife, right? Her company makes the appointments, gets you in with the specialist, make sure you're asking for the right testing, like high level, like health, right? Because we know that it's really hard to be an entrepreneur if you don't have your health, because we push ourselves really hard. And so
Yeah,
her name is Hallie Woods, and so I'm happy to introduce you, but she is doing amazing things in her space.
I love that. I think I've heard a little bit more about like concierge medicine, but also it sounds more like health
Yep.
advocacy.
Yep.
That's very cool. I would be very interested to learn about her. Again, something like I would never have thought of, but is very cool. Because busy entrepreneurs probably don't have the time to schedule. I mean, I cannot tell you, there are some doctor appointments that I probably am past due on that I should have gone
Yep.
to. But my kids have all their
Yeah, my kids are
appointments.
great. It's me. So, right, she's having somebody come, a doctor come to me and get that done. And, all the
Yeah.
scans, and here's the blood draws we should be doing, and here's who else you need to be talking to. So, yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, this was fun. I really appreciate you for coming on and sharing your stories with us.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
having me, Kate. I appreciate it.
Thank you.